Good morning, Year 9. I hope you're well and having a lovely day. Please direct the date and the title, Introduction to Paper 2 Unit. So for your do now, I'd like you to answer these questions. What is the difference between fiction and non-fiction texts? What are the features of a short story? How is it different to a novel? And for your challenge, do you know which of your 2 GCSE papers asks you to look at fiction texts? So please pause the video for about 5 minutes to answer those questions. Okay, so for your GCSE English, you will sit 2 papers, Paper 1 and Paper 2. In Paper 1, you'll be asked to read extracts from non-fiction texts. In Paper 2, you'll be asked to read 2 extracts from fiction texts. This is the paper we'll be preparing you for in this unit. In Section A, you will read the extracts and answer 4 questions on the texts. In Section B, you'll be asked to write imaginatively and creatively in response to a choice of 2 tasks. This unit is to prepare you for Paper 2. In the first half of the unit, we will practice reading fiction texts and answering GCSE-style questions. In the second half, we will focus on developing your creative writing skills. Fiction is writing which stems from your imagination. Examples of fiction texts are novels, short stories, and plays. Non-fiction is true or real-life writing. It's informative or factual, rather than imaginary. Examples of non-fiction texts are biographies, autobiographies, diaries, letters, reviews, adverts, and news articles. A short story is a story with a fully developed theme, but significantly shorter and less elaborate than a novel. A short story is different to a novel in that it is more condensed. It can usually be read in one sitting. We are going to be reading 4 short stories in this unit. So please pause the video for about 5 minutes to make notes on the information on this slide. So our first short story that we're going to look at is called Lamb to the Slaughter. So what do you think this story will be about? Think of the individual words. What does the phrase mean? Pause the video for a couple of minutes to make a note of your predictions. So the title has references to sacrifices that people made to God. Lambs are associated with innocence. Slaughter suggests something violent. If someone does something or goes somewhere, like a lamb to the slaughter, they do it without knowing something bad is going to happen. Please do pause the video now to make a note of what's on the slide. Okay, so the story was set in the 1950s. Based on these pictures, write down some ideas of what was expected of women in the 1950s. So bear in mind we've just looked at Mice and Men, set in the 1930s. What we're going to be seeing on the following slides isn't hugely dissimilar from the expectations placed on women like Curly's wife in Of Mice and Men. And so on each of the following slides, what I'd like you to do is make a note of how women in the 1950s were expected to behave and how that contrasts with women in 2020. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes on each of the following slides. So this is an extract from a 1950s home economics textbook, Advice for Newly Married Wives. Have dinner ready. Plan ahead, even the night before, to have a delicious meal on time. This is a way of letting him know that you've been thinking about him and are concerned about his needs. Most men are hungry when they come home, and the prospects of a good meal are part of the warm welcome needed. So what does this say about how women were seen, what was expected of them, and also how do you think this made them feel? Pause the video to jot down your thoughts. So this tells us women were expected to cook for their husbands, and this was seen as the way that they could show their love. This is obviously an antiquated idea, an old-fashioned idea, and it probably made them feel very trapped and undervalued. They weren't told to show their love through their words, they were told to show it through cooking. So it's a very limiting approach to women, and probably made them feel quite depressed and sad and objectified. Prepare yourself. Take 15 minutes to rest so you'll be refreshed when he arrives. Touch up your makeup, put a ribbon in your hair, and be fresh looking. He has just been with a lot of work-weary people. Be a little happier and a little more interesting. His boring day may need a lift. So again, pause the video once again for a couple of minutes to jot down your thoughts about expectations and how this made women feel. So again, it must have made them feel very objectified, that their role is to look pretty and be interesting. It's not like they're a real person, it's like they're an object to promote the happiness of their master. So it's not a relationship of equals, it presents it as a relationship where one is the master and one is kind of subservient to the other, an attraction of the house, almost like a feature of the house, and a piece of property. And it again probably made them feel very undermined and undervalued. Clear away the clutter. Make one last trip through the main part of the house just before your husband arrives, gathering up schoolbooks, toys, paper, etc. Then run a dust cloth over the tables. Your husband will feel he has reached a haven of rest and order, and it will give you a lift too. Pause the video now. Okay, so this tells us women are meant to clean, and like with the previous tasks, it probably made them feel undermined, depressed, that their only role was to do menial work like cook and clean and look pretty, while the man went off to do the real work. And this really led to low self-esteem. Minimize all noise. At the time of his arrival, eliminate all noise of washer, dryer, dishwasher, or vacuum. Try to encourage children to be quiet. Be happy to see him. Greet him with a warm smile and be glad to see him. Some don'ts. Don't greet him with problems or complaints. Don't complain if he's late. Count this as minor compared with what he might have gone through that day. Pause the video now. So again, the woman is seen as sort of an angel of the house, making it a perfect haven, a place where he can be perfectly relaxed. Make him comfortable. Have him lean back in a comfortable chair or suggest he lie down in the bedroom. Have a cool or warm drink ready for him. Arrange his pillow and offer to take off his shoes. Speak in a long, soft, soothing and pleasant voice. Allow him to relax and unwind. Pause the video now. Okay, so once again, you got this idea of doing whatever you can as a woman to serve your man, who is treated sort of like your lord or your master. Everything that you do is to make him happy. Listen to him. You may have a dozen things to tell him, but the moment of his arrival is not the time. Let him talk first. Make the evening his. Never complain if he does not take you out to dinner or other places of entertainment. Instead, try to understand his world of strain and pressure, his need to be home and relax. So again, it's this idea of women being beneath men. It's not about you, it's about him. He takes priority, he is the important one. Okay, so now let's read the story. As we read, think about the predictions you made about the story, see if they come true, and see how the main character Mary fits a stereotype of a 1950s woman. So please spend 15 minutes. I've given you the PDF so you can read it, and I've also given you a link to a YouTube link where you've got the book read out. So I would advise listening to it and following along as you listen to it. So finally, some reflections. What did you think about the story? Was it what you expected? Did you find the ending surprising? And in what ways did Mary Maloney fit the stereotype of a 1950s woman, and how did she not? So spend 5 to 10 minutes, answering these questions. Okay, and that brings us to the end of today's lesson. So I hope you found it an interesting story. We'll be exploring it in more detail next lesson. So thank you very much. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll speak to you next time.